Assalamualaikum students. Hope you all are fine and doing well at your home. Safe and sound at home. I'm Rida, your science teacher. Today we will discuss chapter number 5, Chemical Reactions, Core Concept 5.2, Chemical Equations. But before heading toward the lecture, I want to share message of the day with you guys, which is honesty. Honesty is often very hard. The truth is often painful, but the freedom it can bring is worth the trying. Remember, honesty is the first chapter of the book Wisdom. You are only responsible for being honest, not for someone else's reaction to your honesty. As I quoted before, today we're going to start chapter number 5, core concept 5.2. The chapter name is Chemical Reactions. But before starting, I have some questions to brainstorm about the previous knowledge. The very first question, what is chemical reaction? An interaction between substances in which new products are formed is known as chemical reaction. Second question, what happened in a chemical reaction? Atoms rearrange themselves in a chemical reaction. How can we know about reactants taking part in a chemical reaction, and how we can know what products have been formed? In order to know and describe about a chemical reactions, we use chemical equations. These chemical equations are the shortest and the easiest way to describe a chemical reaction. By studying a chemical equation, we know about reactants. We can also know and even predict the products formed or to be formed. These equations also inform about the elements taking part in a reaction and also about the rearrangement of atoms. But chemical equation must be balanced. Now, what is balanced chemical equation? Balanced chemical equation means the number of atoms of each element on reactant side must be equal to the number of atoms on the product side. In today's lecture, we will learn how to write a chemical equation and how to balance a chemical equation. Before starting the lesson, let's conduct following questions. The very first question is, what are reactants? Reactants are the substances taking part in a chemical reaction. In which side of equation reactants are written? On the left side of the chemical equation. Do memorize that. Now the third question is, what are products? Substances formed as a result of chemical reaction are known as product. The last question, in which side of the equation products are written? On the right side of the chemical equation. Now we have to identify reactant and product from the following equation. Here the atoms rearrange themselves to form water molecule, and we have to identify reactants and products out of this equation. Over here, hydrogen and oxygen are reactants which rearrange themselves to form water molecule, and water molecule is product over here. When hydrogen and oxygen combine, water is formed. There are two reactants, which one are hydrogen and oxygen, and one product which is water. Now let's write the formula of these reactant and products. Hydrogen, which is reactant, H2, oxygen, which is also reactant, O2, and water, which is a product, its formula is H2O. Let's write them reactant and product in one line. Hydrogen H2, oxygen O2, and water H2O. These two reactant and this one is product. Now let's separate reactant and product to show the direction of reaction. For this purpose, these two are reactant and water is a product, so we separated out these reactants from product by placing the arrow in between reactants and products. Now let's put a plus sign to separate the two reactants. As you guys know that these two are reactants, so you have to separate these two reactants from each other. So for separation we have to place this plus sign in between hydrogen and oxygen. Now the question arises, what is the physical state of hydrogen, oxygen and water, whether they are solid, liquid or gases? In this, hydrogen and oxygen are gases and water is liquid. We have to mention these state in this equation by putting G with H2 mean and G with O2 means these two hydrogen and oxygen are gases, and by placing L with water, which means that water is a liquid. It's a chemical equation, but it is not complete. It will be completed when it will be balanced. In order to make one equation balanced, it must be remembered that an element present on reactant side must have to be present on the product side. It is so because matter does not destroy nor create it, it only changes from one form to another form, which is law of conservation of mass. Now you can search in your previous lesson or lectures for an equation or a reaction in which an element is missing on product side or any new element is formed in product side. And I hope that there is no such equation or reaction in which any missing, lost or extra element or atom is present. Now let's count the number of hydrogen and oxygen atom on reactant as well as on the product side of the equation. Over here we have 2 hydrogen on the reactant side, 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 2 hydrogen on the product side and 1 oxygen on the product side. So we make a table for that. We have 2 hydrogen on reactant side, 2 oxygen on the reactant side, 2 hydrogen on product side and 1 oxygen on the product side. As the table shows, hydrogen is balanced while oxygen is not. Let's learn how to balance the chemical equation. In order to balance oxygen or make oxygen atom 2 on product side, we place a coefficient 2 besides H2O. Over here we place 2 with H2O. This 2 multiplies with all the element present in water formula, which becomes, when you multiply 2 with H2O, it becomes 4 hydrogen and 2 oxygens. Now again you have to count the number of atom of each element on both sides. After placing 2 besides H2O, now we have 2 hydrogen on the reactant side and 4 hydrogen on the product side. And oxygen is balanced now, 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 2 oxygen on the product side. From here you can count 2 oxygen reactant side, 2, 1 makes 2 oxygen on the product side. 2 into 2, 4 hydrogen on the product side and 2 hydrogen on the reactant side. Now oxygen is balanced, but hydrogen atom has become imbalanced. So in order to balance the hydrogen atom on both sides of the reactant and product, place 2 besides H2. You have to place 2 with the H2 in reactant side. The 2 multiplies with the 2 hydrogen, or you can say that 2 multiplies with the subscript of H2 and make 2 into 2, 4. Now again count the number of hydrogen atom on the reactant side are 4 and product side there are also 4. On oxygen is already balanced, or 2 oxygen on the reactant side as well as 2 oxygen on the product side. Now we have a balanced chemical equation. Now the equation is balanced. It tells us that to produce 2 molecules of water, we need 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. We have to put integers besides the formula over here, and never change the subscript of the formula. Like you can't place this 2 with this subscript 2, because it will change the nature of the substance if we place 2 with H2O instead of placing besides. A new compound H2O2 maybe is formed, which is not water and it is peroxide. Let's discuss another chemical equation and balance it using the same procedure. Here we have another unbalanced chemical equation in which methane combines with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water vapors. We have to work with one element at one time. Count the number of atoms of each element of the reactant and product. We have 3 atoms on over reactant side as well as on the product side: carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Here we have 1 carbon on the reactant side and 1 carbon on the product side. 4 hydrogen on the reactant side and 2 hydrogen on the product side. 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 2 plus 1 makes 3 oxygen on the product side. Make a table: 1 carbon on reactant side, 1 carbon on the product side, 4 hydrogen on the reactant side, 2 hydrogen on the product side, 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 3 oxygens on the product side. Here carbon is balanced on both sides of the equation, while hydrogen and oxygens are not balanced. To balance the hydrogen atom, put 2 besides H2O. Now again count the number of atoms on both sides. The number of oxygen atom has increased. 2 and 2, 4. Now oxygen becomes 3, 2. It increases to 4. To balance it, it increases as before it was 3 on the product side, now it is 4. So the number of oxygen atom increases. Now we have to balance the oxygen atom. For balancing oxygen atom, we have to place 2 besides O2, because on the reactant side there are less oxygen atoms, so we place this 2 with this O2 to make 2 into 2, 4. Now oxygen is balanced. Each and every oxygen on the reactant and product side are balanced. But you can see each and every atom, after placing this 2 with O2 and the 2 with H2O, each and every atom on the reactant and product side become balanced. We have 1 carbon on the reactant side and 1 carbon on the product side, 4 hydrogen on the reactant side, 2 into 2, 4 hydrogen on the product side, 2 into 2, 4 on the oxygen on the reactant side, and 2 into 2, 2 into 1, and these 2 plus 2 makes 4, and 4 oxygen on the product side. Consider another example. Ammonia reacts with oxygen to form nitrous oxide and water. It is used as an anesthetic in industries and surgeries. Anesthetic in industry and surgery. Count the number of each atom of the reactant as well as on the product side. There are 2 nitrogen atoms on the product side and only 1 nitrogen on the reactant side. Now make a table. 1 nitrogen on the reactant side and 2 on the product side, 3 hydrogen on the reactant side and 2 hydrogen on the product side, 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 2 oxygen on the product side. Over here oxygen is balanced. To make nitrogen balanced, we have to place 2 besides NH3. For balancing nitrogen, we are placing 2 with the NH3. Now there are 2 into 3, 6 hydrogen on the reactant side and 2 hydrogen on the product side. So place 3 with besides H2 on the product side. This give 3 into 2, 6 hydrogen over here, and 2 into 3, 6 hydrogen on the reactant side as well as 6 hydrogen on the product side. After balancing nitrogen and hydrogen, count again. Hydrogen atom are now balanced, but you can see that before oxygen was balanced, but now it become imbalanced after placing the coefficient with the ammonia and water. We have to balance oxygen. Now there are 2 oxygen on the reactant side and 3 and 1 4 on the product side. So we have to place 2 besides O2 on the reactant side to make oxygen atom equals to the oxygen on the product side. Count again the number of each atom on reactant side. It's equal to that of the product side. You can see 2 nitrogen balanced. 2 into 3 6 hydrogen, 3 into 2 6 hydrogen, hydrogen's balanced. 2 into 2 4 oxygen, and 3 into 1 4 oxygen on the product side. Now each and every atom on reactant and product side is balanced in this chemical equation. Let's discuss another example to make it more clear, which is the equation between ferric oxide and carbon react together to produce iron and carbon dioxide. From this equation, we count the number of atoms on each side of the equation. On reactant side, we have 2 iron atom and 1 on the product side. On reactant side, we have 1 carbon. On the product side, we also have 1 carbon. On reactant side, we have 3 oxygen. And on the product side, we have 2 oxygen atoms. First, we balance the oxygen atom, because oxygen on the reactant side there are 3 oxygen, and on the product side there are 2 oxygen, and carbon is already balanced. Iron is again unbalanced, but we first work with the oxygen. Take 1 atom, we have to work with the 1 atom at one time. To do this, we choose the common multiple that may give equal number of oxygen atom on both sides of the reactant and product. In this equation, you can see over here we have 3 oxygen and over here we have 2. So we have to choose the common multiple. So we multiply this oxygen with 2 and this oxygen of carbon dioxide with 3. Now it becomes 2 into 3 makes 6 and 3 into 2 makes 6. Again we have to count the number of atom on each side. Now we have 4 iron on the reactant side and 1 iron on the product side. 6 oxygen on the reactant side and 6 oxygen on the product side. 1 carbon on the reactant side and 3 carbon on the product side. It means that we have now oxygen balanced, but carbon and iron are not balanced. To balance iron, as we have 4 iron on the reactant side, we have to place this 4 with this iron on the product side. After placing 4 beside iron on the product side, now iron atoms are balanced. Next come the carbon atom. We balanced carbon atom by putting 3 with the carbon of the reactant side, because there are 3 carbon on the product side. So we have to place beside carbon 3 to make carbon balance on the reactant side. After placing this 3 coefficient with the carbon of the reactant, now again count the number of atom on each side of the balanced chemical equation. 2 into 2 4 on the reactant side, 4. 4 iron on the product side, 4. Now it's balanced. 3 carbon on the reactant side, 3 carbon on the product side. Carbon is balanced. 2 into 3 6 oxygen on the reactant side and 3 into 2 6 oxygen on the product side. Now it is also balanced. Here I hope that you get the concept of balancing the chemical equations, as we discussed 4 examples to make this concept clear for you guys. So we end this topic or closure of this topic on following points, main points. Chemical equation tell us about the type of element present on both sides of the equation. It also tells us the number of each atom present on reactant and product side. It tells us about the physical state of the reactant and product, and also about the ratio of reactant and products. Some main points, other main points are Balanced chemical equation always contains some number of atom of each, same number of atom of each element on both sides. Both sides mean reactant and product of the equation. In order to balance the unbalanced equation, we multiply the unbalanced atom with a suitable integer. Remember that you have to add the coefficient or integer with the formula, not with the subscript. In order to make equation balanced, and while multiplying with the suitable integer, we do not change the subscript of the formula, as it will change the nature of the reactant. Here topic end. Now you have the following homework. You have to balance the chemical equation on your own. The very first one is P4 phosphorus combines with chlorine to form PCl. Again, lead oxides combine with ammonia to form lead, nitrogen and water. And all other these equations you have to balance all these equations on your own, and remember the points which I discussed in this lecture, but while you are balancing the chemical equation. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Good luck.